really wanted to go to this when we were in Austin, Texas. I so wanted to see this. This is Peter Pan Mini Golf, opened in 1948. This is J.M. Barrie, the creator of Peter Pan. Peter Pan first appeared in a 1902 book called The Little White Bird. He then turned that into a play in 1904. It was called Peter Pan or The Boy Who Would Never Grow Up. In 1906, he released a book called Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens. This was basically the story that appeared in The Little White Bird. He made it into its own book. It's about an infant Peter Pan flying around in Kensington Gardens. In 1908, he wrote a play that was a sequel to the first Peter Pan story. This is called When Wendy Grew Up. So then he took the two plays he had done about Peter Pan and Wendy, put them together for a book that was called Peter Pan and Wendy. Then in 1929, he donated the copyright to Peter Pan to the Great Ormond Street Hospital in the UK. J.M. Barrie died in 1937, so his copyright expired in the UK 50 years later in 1987, but they did a Copyright Extension Act there in the UK to extend the rights until 2007. And then when that came up, they extended it again. So the hospital still owns the rights, but only in the UK. This is the statue of Peter Pan that appears at the hospital. There are several Peter Pan statues around the world. This is one that I found that was in Scotland. I like this one of Peter standing on a tree stump. This one's in New Zealand. Now this one is in the actual Kensington Garden. George Frampton is the sculptor. They made 6 of these and they appear throughout the world. There is one here in New Jersey, so I'm going to have to go see it at some point. Andrew Hafner was the sculptor of this one. This is a bronze likeness of Peter. This was made for the old Paramount Theater, which is located in New York City. It's no longer a theater. You may know it if you're a wrestling fan. It was WWF New York for a while. I think right now it is a Hard Rock Cafe. It's a building, by the way, that has a replica in Universal Studios, Florida. But they made this for the Paramount Theater. Paramount Theater stopped being a theater, so it was taken out of the lobby, and it's now in George Schurz Park in New York City. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Peter Pan Records. Look at the logo right there, right there. It shows an advertisement on the back. This company started in 1948. This might be their greatest record with the weird knockoff Sesame Street Muppet. I have this record. I have this one. There have been Peter Pan ice cream companies and ice cream shops. There was one in Kansas. There was one in Oklahoma. I don't think they were related. Here's a look at the ice cream shop. Going back to New York City and present day, Peter Pan's Donut Shop and Bakery. This is a thoroughbred horse named Peter Pan. He was born in 1904, which is the same year that the play came out. And he went on to win the Belmont Stakes. So those of you that know anything about horse racing, you've probably heard of the Triple Crown. That's one leg of the Triple Crown. This was a great horse. He ended up in the Horse Racing Hall of Fame. He sired several children, and in his lineage, there's multiple Kentucky Derby winners. So this, Peter Pan. You've probably heard of Peter Pan Peanut Butter. It debuted in 1920, so this was decades before the Disney movie. In the 1950s, Peter Pan Peanut Butter sponsored the Disneyland TV show, the one that was hosted by Walt Disney. During the sponsor ads during the Disneyland TV broadcast, Disney's Tinkerbell would appear shilling for Peter Pan Peanut Butter. Now, the package originally had a woman dressed as Peter Pan. In the early days of Peter Pan on stage, this was almost always how it was done. Famously, Mary Martin played Peter Pan on stage. Sandy Duncan played Peter Pan. It would always be played by a small woman. But later we got used to having a child as Peter Pan. So now we're really used to the image. But this was the image of Peter Pan that most people expected, and that's what was on the can. Now, they also had their own animated Peter Pan. In 2007, a deal was struck, and now the Disney Peter Pan is the mascot for Peter Pan Peanut Butter. Now, that Disney version was released in 1953, tells the story of Peter Pan from the original play. It became the most famous version of the story, obviously. It inspired its own ride at Disney, which is one of my favorites, by the way. Always has a super long line and is so worth it. Also, they had a sequel 2002's Return to Neverland. Now, a lot of people are really down on Disney sequels. Return to Neverland is fantastic. There have also been numerous video games based on Peter Pan. Here's one you could get for the Game Boy. The Hook game for Super Nintendo. Hook, another version of the Peter Pan story, this time with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman. In 2009, the Wii had a non-Disney game which was called Peter Pan's Playground. There have been numerous Peter Pan playgrounds all around the world. There still are plenty in the US today. This one was in Sussex in England. There once was a Peter Pan seafood company. Here's their canned salmon. You can see Peter flying around on there, looking a lot different than the Disney version. This is a 1989 Japanese TV series based on Peter Pan. In this, Peter wears his red outfit, which is what he wears in the original story. The Disney version kind of popularized the green outfit, which also had been done in a lot of stage productions, but initially Peter Pan was wearing red. There is a Peter Pan resort in Thailand. Here's a school called the Peter Pan Academy. It's actually a preschool. It's in Alameda, California. There's also a daycare in Illinois called Village of Peter Pan. In Oakland Park, Florida, there is the Peter Pan Diner. Here's a Thundercats board game, but if you look closely in that bottom corner, you'll see that this was made by a company called Peter Pan Playthings. Of course, Disney had a Peter Pan board game. If you were looking to bake, you could use your Peter Pan flour to make a cake or to make some bread. But why would you do that when you could just go to the store and buy some Peter Pan bread? I like this watch. This would be for a Peter Pan peanut butter salesman. It says, "Time to sell Peter Pan." You'll always know what time it is because it's always time to sell some Peter Pan. This is Henry Winkler, the Fonz, playing Captain Hook in a stage production of Peter Pan. How cool is that? By the way, if you enjoy these videos, make sure and be like the Fonz. Give this video a thumbs up, because if you give it a thumbs up, YouTube will see your thumbs up and then they share it with more people. And if those people give it a thumbs up, then they share it with even more people. So please, be like Captain Hook over here. Give it a thumbs up. There's also a Peter Pan bus line. This is headquartered out in Massachusetts, but they go all up and down the East Coast. I have been behind this Peter Pan bus so many times with Peter doing this thing. Look at this. If you went to Disneyland opening day, this was Roy's ticket. This is the first ever ticket to get into Disneyland. It's not the original. This is a replica. I got in this my absolute favorite book. I think this is my #1 favorite book in the world. It's got a bunch of stuff about Peter Pan. I actually have 2 editions, the first edition and the second edition. If you want to learn about them, I'm going to put a video up here where I go through every page of my favorite Disney book. Also on this side, YouTube's going to tell you what they think is best for you. So you can choose. Who knows you better, me or YouTube? Either way, come back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock and I'll see you then.